In our recent series of What Would You Buy at Some Theoretical Budgets, surveying our panel of experts, we've talked about price points from $1,200 all the way up to $1 million. But even at those low price points, you can find some awesome cars. And so for this week, I thought it'd be fun to talk about a $5,000 theoretical budget. And so I asked my friends what they would buy, but as I was looking around, it's awesome all the cool cars you could buy. For $5,000, with just a little bit of negotiation from asking prices on all the sites that you can find on Auto Tempest, it's actually pretty easy to find a Porsche Boxster with a ton of miles, but still a manual gearbox that you could buy and own and have a ton of fun with for that kind of money. I mean, nobody's going to see that car and think it's a $5,000 automobile. That being said, it can be expensive to repair, but as the Boxster platform becomes the new spec race car in many series, honestly, you can get some really cheap consumables and a lot of independent support for the car. So I think that would be awesome. Always, I love depreciated AMG cars. Quite honestly, the $2,800 2002 S55 AMG that I just bought to help Avalon King showcase whether or not their ceramic coatings can protect your car in the event that it's shot off of a cliff. I mean, it's hard to beat that for $5,000. For $5,000, you could buy a nicer one. Of course, any of them probably need $10,000 worth of repairs immediately. But that being said, they're really cool, and they were over $100,000 new. Now, I understand that people want a little bit of a recommendation of something much more sensible. And in that regard, I would say the Nissan 350Z or the Infiniti G35. You can buy plenty of them in actually really decent condition with manual gearboxes, a great balanced platform, reliable engine and transmission for $5,000. So I think that would be very hard to beat, but I was very curious what my friends would think, and these were their answers.
Best performance car for $5,000. I'm gonna go with a 1G DSM. You can pick them up for well under $5,000, but you're definitely gonna need to do some sorting out. I just picked this one up for $3,500. Now, I got about $1,000 into it, so I'm under the $5,000 budget for a really rad and fun ride.
Hey Steve with Steve's POV here. $5,000, not a lot of money nowadays, but if you search real hard and you're willing to work on a project car, try to find yourself a good, pretty solid 240, 260, 280Z, an early Z car. $5,000, I'm gonna tell you, I just sold one. A little bit more than $5,000. You'd have to reach a little deeper in your pocket to have gotten the one that I had, but not too far off. Project, early Z car, perfect thing for around $5,000.
So if you're a major glutton for punishment, or you have a YouTube channel where you make money based on how awful the car is and that makes more videos, an Alpina B7 for under $5,000, it really fits the bill quite well. But if you're looking for a somewhat practical car for under $5,000, you're on a budget, you need a car that gets you to work, well, the Lincoln Mark 8 is an excellent choice. It has an all-aluminum 4.6 liter V8 under the hood, limited slip differential, Cobra engine basically, and it looks really cool. It's like a spaceship. I love this thing, and it's reliable.
Fun car under 5,000 to me says cheap track car. So I found this listing for 96 BMW 3 Series. They're asking 6,000, but it's our best offer. It's got interior gutted racing seat, harnesses, a bunch of suspension upgrades, stuff like that. New set of tires comes with it, and it says all that stuff's only been used for 3 events. I mean, maybe that means it sucked, but if not, then that could be a good deal.
You're not going to get much of a sports car. I'll tell you what car you are going to get. It's going to be really good, fast, economical, and good handling. A police car. Perfect for the average speeder. Camouflaged on the highways. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to stop you. Buy the oldest one you can, because then it's kind of legal. Police usually will mostly let you off if you get caught slightly over the limit, but if you get caught heavily over the limit, you can forget it, they'll throw the book at you.
For $5,000, I'd find a fairly beat up Porsche Boxster and just drive the heck out of it, not worry about it. Have a good time, put the top down, make it your third, fourth car, just a beater that you can have a ball with.
I feel like in the $5,000 price range, I have champagne taste on a beer budget, because there's lots of $10,000 cars that I want to try to buy for $5,000 and just get terrible examples. I wouldn't actually buy Seascape again for $5,000, even though I already own it, but there's lots of good options. You could get a half-decent Mustang Fox body, a pretty terrible R129 SL500 that probably needs tons of work, maybe a decent Corvette C4. Heck, you could get a Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. But for my money, I'd take a Porsche 928. Now again, probably have to buy a pretty mediocre one that needs some work, but I'd get a 5-speed. It's got a V8. It's a unique style by Porsche that's never been replicated by any other manufacturer, and it's got a lot of history.
Originally, I wanted to go to the first gen Lexus LS 400 because I owned one. I put 1 million miles on it, and it was fabulous. And the LS 400 is fabulous. It's one of those truly over-engineered cars. But someone shopping for a $5,000 car probably does not want to deal with the maintenance costs of the LS 400, which, while not extraordinary, are probably more than you'd want to deal with for a $5,000 car. That's why my choice for $5,000 car is the EG Honda Civic Hatch. Now, here's a car that's very light, very small, but very spacious inside. It's got that long roof. You can fold down the back seats and put a bunch of stuff in there. It has great suspension geometry. It didn't have a great engine from the factory, but it's easily tunable. More importantly, you can easily just drop in any other Honda engine. So you put a K24 in that thing later.
First of all, that is about almost $8,000 Canadian, so that gives me a lot to play with. I was really surprised to see what I could find at this. One thing notably was the 2010 Hyundai Genesis or Genesis or whatever you call them now, with low mileage, maybe 66,000 miles for under $8,000 Canadian. It's a 2-liter turbo, 6-speed, no hits you can get for that, and I've heard it's pretty reliable, decent looking car.
Hey guys and gals, Gearhead Girl here. What would I be buying for $5,000? Well, I might have cheated on this one a little bit. It wouldn't be a car. It would be a Ducati Monster 696.
I can tell you exactly what I'd have for $5,000 because I bought one from the United States a couple of weeks ago, and it's a P71 2008 movie used police car, police interceptor. I mean, I don't think it's really cool. Got limited slip diff, big V8 power, and it's even got the plastic back seats in it, so if you're a naughty boy you can put your hands behind your back and you won't snap your wrist enough. Have a lovely day.
So for $5,000 car, I did a quick search on 3 pedals, what you can get for that, and I've narrowed it down to 2. So the first one is a 2007 Saab 9.3 Combi wagon. So obviously holds a ton of stuff, but also pretty fun to drive with the 6-speed manual and turbocharged engine. But what I would choose, I think, would be this. So a 2001 Audi TT Roadster 225. So back then, they came in 2 flavors, a front-wheel drive with 180 horse or the 225 horse Quattro. And what makes this car even more special is the ultra-cool baseball glove leather interior.
The best car for about $5,000 for me has to be something you can easily modify. So if you want a Euro car, get yourself a C32 AMG, very reliable, and they can go pretty fast with some easy bolt-ons. But I love my LS engines, so I gotta say, a Caprice PPV. You can get a higher mileage example for about $5,000. It's basically a 4-door Camaro, so you get a 6-liter LS that you can modify to your heart's content.
The car that came to mind perfectly is actually something I recently fell in love with. It is going to be the Mercedes-Benz SL R129 generation. Now, what's cool about these is they're all over the spectrum. You can buy one for like $2,000, which is going to need some love, or you can buy one that's like a Designo car, which is worth a lot more than $5,000. Now, with that being said, you can find an SL500, SL600, the V12 one, which is basically the same motor they later used in a Pagani. That's a lot of bang for your buck. And you can get them all day for $5,000. Now, can you maintain them? That's a better question.
So for $5,000, there's really not a lot you can buy, but there is one thing that a lot of people hate, and that is the C4 Corvette. You can find these things for under $5,000 all day long, and they come with 300 horsepower, 335 foot-pounds of torque from an LT1 engine from Chevy. I mean, can you get any better than that? That's amazing. Just slap a supercharger on there and go.
All right, so I think after talking to a bunch of my friends, because this was a hard one, I think we settled on the Porsche 944, the naturally aspirated, 140 plus horsepower, manual, and just a visceral driving car. Not turbo, not crazy. For $3,000 you can find them, and a really good copy, up to $5,000.
I'm finally going to have to break down and recommend the Mazda MX-5 Miata. It's a genuine sports car on a bulletproof platform. It's easy to work on, parts are cheap. I can't think of a better starter street car or track day car. That is, if you want your friends questioning your masculinity. What you really need is a Jaguar XJR with 400 horsepower and 408 foot-pounds of torque. No, we want something light, nimble, and reliable. But the supercharger. Forget the supercharger. That thing will cost you a fortune to keep running. But we want it! We want it! It was designed by Ford. That's not helping your argument at all. But it has an aluminum body and chassis. For $5,000, don't get something that's going to cost you another $5,000 to keep running. Adaptive air suspension. It burns! It burns! In a Miata, nobody likes you. Stop it! Stop it! Jaguar XJR. My precious.
Hey guys, my pick for $5,000 would be a 1998 to 2003 Jaguar XJR, also known as the X308. This was the last steel-bodied Jaguar powered by a supercharged 4-liter V8 rear-wheel drive car. Just super cool looking car, last of its kind for sure. I had one, and funny enough, this was the first car I ever put on VinWiki on the app like 3 years ago. So I'm sure it's still up there, but the car itself has traded hands quite a few times.
Hey guys, PJ with Exotic Car Hacks here, and my favorite car under $5,000 would have to be the Jaguar S-Type R. I just feel like Jaguars are such great value for the money. And when you're talking about getting a $50,000 Jaguar for just $5,000 or less, it's just a no-brainer.
For $5,000, I would go with the 4th generation Infiniti G series. Now this generation body style gets a little confusing. It first starts off as the G35, and then it becomes a G37. And then in 2014, Infiniti confused everybody by rebadging the G37 to Q40. I would go with a 2007 G35 sedan. Now these were available in all-wheel drive, but I would buy the rear-wheel drive 6-speed manual.
For a $5,000 budget, I would buy this Renault 4L that is prepared for the 4L Trophy. The 4L Trophy is a very popular rally in France, only for students and only for 4Ls. The reason why they chose this car to do it is that it was very reliable. There were a lot of them because it's the best seller ever when it comes to French cars. So, well, this one is ready, been running in 2020, and so, well, I would take this and go and do this rally. That could be fun through the Moroccan desert.
For $5,000, my sophisticated choice would be the distinctive BMW 6 Series from the mid to late 80s. It's the gentleman's coupe, long, sleek, shark nose, gorgeous proportions. It's a handsome Grand Tourer and a driver's car if you get the manual. My more fun choice, though, would be the BMW 325i from the late 80s, early 90s. It's really retro, nostalgic, not that luxurious, but it's balanced, it's light, it's responsive. Has decent power, but it's more of a momentum-based car, so that means it's great for improving your own driving skills. You can learn how to drift on it, you can take it to the track, and it is still the ultimate driving machine.
So sometimes after work, late night, I find myself shopping eBay, Craigslist, and classified sites looking for a cheap E55. The 1999 and 2002 E55, I absolutely love. It's as iconic as an AMG as you get, and they're super cheap. You could probably find a car with 100,000 miles in nice condition for, I don't know, $6,000, maybe a little bit less than $5,000. So for $5,000, that's what I'm buying, an E55.
What would I buy for $5,000? What did I buy for $5,000? My dream car, the world's greatest Volvo wagon. 16-valve turbo, the holy grail of old Volvo engines. 740 SE wagon, original paint, SE models very rare, Mustang 5-speed, full IPD suspension and bushings throughout. $5,000, my dream car, the ultimate Volvo wagon.
Okay, I promise I'll try harder this week. I just got off the phone with Commissioner Doug Tabbitt after my 1-week self-imposed suspension for buying a Pantera for $1 million. This week, $5,000. Simple. Can't screw this one up. I would go with the Volkswagen Corrada. Without a doubt, started in 1990, had a 4-cylinder supercharged in it back then, moved up to the VR6. My choice for $5,000 this week is the Volkswagen Corrada.
For $5,000, I'm choosing not to even think about this as a daily driver. I'm gonna grab a track toy. So in the right circles of a bunch of professional race car drivers, these things change hands all day. I'm going with an NB Miata that's been track prepped, perfect to get out on the racetrack with a roll cage, some racing seats, brakes, tires, fully sorted under $5,000.
Welcome to my wheelhouse. I literally own all of these choices and bought them for less than $5,000. I got 2 good choices and 2 bad choices. Let's start with the good ones. Get yourself a 16-valve Volkswagen Scirocco, or if you want a rear-wheel drive car, a Porsche 944. For $5,000, you're gonna have a great car and should have a little money to fix it up. For your bad choices, do what I also did. Get yourself a first-gen Toyota MR2. It probably is gonna rust and fizz like an Alka-Seltzer tablet in the rain. Or you can get an early Porsche 928 like I did, and then you're gonna spend about another year and at least another $5,000 fixing it up yourself.
This one's easy. B5 Audi S4. Even though they're incredibly unreliable, I had one in high school and I want another one.
Perfect for those Florida summer nights. A 2004 Nissan 350Z convertible with a manual gearbox, and this car is very splashy, black with aftermarket chrome wheels.
At $5,000, you really only have one option. It comes with 2 turbos, a V6 engine, convertible drop top, a production number of less than 300 a year, 6,800 miles on this particular example, and that is, of course, a 1986 Maserati bi-turbo Spider. This one probably hasn't been driven in a decade and is going to need a little bit of love, but it comes in $5 under budget, so that's plenty to fix a 80s Maserati.
Hey, VinWiki fans, Randy from Savage Garage here. Today's challenge, the $5,000 car challenge, I think is the Nissan 350Z manual transmission. That is going to be my choice. I get a lot of fun, got a pretty zippy car, and you can modify it pretty quick. You can weld the diff, do all sorts of fun stuff, and do donuts for days.
What's up guys, Mike from Max Speed. Alright, so with a $5,000 budget, I would go out and buy an E36 M3. Now it would look nothing like that one because it would be like 220,000 plus mile one. I found 2 for sale, super high mileage, so that's a no-go. A real viable option would be this 10th anniversary edition Miata. You can take it to the track, drive it in the street. It's a really good platform to start with. It'll help you become a better driver, and it'll put a smile on your face every time.
You wouldn't think I'd be too excited about a $5,000 price point, but I am. Firstly, let's talk about the obvious answer, MX-5 Miata. Look, the answer is almost always MX-5 Miata, right? But the problem is you're gonna hear that 5, 6, or 7 million times on this video. And so no, the answer isn't MX-5 Miata. The answer is Fox Body Mustang, that's right. Now look, I may be a little bit biased here because I had one of the nicest ones I've ever seen and I so wanna find that car and buy it back. But I also happen to be right. V8, rear-wheel drive, a huge aftermarket industry. You can turn it into an incredible drag racing car or, little less known, an incredible road racing car. In fact, there was one that ran in the DTM. Did you know that? You didn't know that, did you? Look it up. DTM, German Touring Car Championship, Fox Body Mustang, ran in that series. Get one with the traction lock differential or put an LSD in it, and now you can learn how to drift. You can learn all about the fine art of throttle steer. But since Ken Block and the Hoonigan Gang recently announced that they're going to build the Fox Body to end all Fox Bodies, you better jump on it because it's going to get harder and harder to find an unmolested example. You may not have heard it here first, but I confirmed it. Fox Body Mustang.
Great answers as always, everybody. Thank you so much for participating. If you've got a better idea, please let us know in the comments, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. We'll come next week with a different budget that I hope you'll enjoy just as much. We'd like to thank Exotic Car Hacks for supporting this video and sponsoring this month's videos of VinWiki Car Stories. We love their support and their educational platform that allows anybody to own exotic cars at a much lower cost. For $5,000, you could probably own most of the cars that they kind of advise their hacks on that you can get, minimizing depreciation, leveraging financing, and taking advantage of all the resources that they have compiled in order to make it cheaper and easier for you to own your cars. And so for $5,000 a year, you could probably own a Gallardo, an Audi R8, a whole lot of very, very fascinating cars. So be sure to check them out at the link in the description below and thank them for their support of VinWiki.